Welcome, everybody, to the Relatable Hour with Dr. Green. Thank you so very much for joining tonight. We have a great topic, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of great conversations and discussions. And the topic is centered around consistency and having a sense of being consistent. And as I was just thinking about this particular topic, there was one person that definitely came to mind to add into this conversation. He's a dear friend, frat brother of mine, and I think he will definitely be able to just expound on this importance of consistency. And I would like to introduce to you all actor Laurence Aikens. Brother Aikens, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Dr. Green. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. So I know you, known you for quite some time now, but I'd love for you just to share a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and just kind of give us a gist of your world as an actor. Just would love to have you just tell the people about you.
Okay, Lawrence Aikens. I am an actor, retired finance person. Um, been back in the field of acting maybe in the last 7 years. I started acting. Well, you do it as a kid. You do the little school plays, things at church, and stuff like that. But when I was in college, we had an annual black production and I always did that. And when I got out of college, I did some community theater and a few little shows around LA, but nothing big. And got married, had kids, and abandoned it. And you do something occasionally for your church. I live in Richmond, Virginia. Home is Oakland, California. Did I cover everything?
And you did do some acting in college as well, correct?
Yeah, that's the production that I did every year. So I did do that. It was called Ebony Sweet.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what drew you to that particular production?
I always kind of wanted to be an actor, but I was pretty shy.
Mm-hmm.
And I told myself I was going to have to do this. And even I remember auditioning. I did a scene from Raisin in the Sun, and it was just so weird standing in front of people reading lines. And I was like, oh, this is so hard to do. And of course, I got my mind right and was able to do it. And then, like I said, when I got out of college, I started doing community theater at the Black Repertory Theater in Berkeley, California. And I did about 3 or 4 plays there, and I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I moved to Richmond about a little more than 3 years ago, and I moved here because I was in a production, and there were 5 other productions that were going on. So at that time, Richmond was a booming area for
Mm-hmm.
productions. And looking at now, probably Atlanta, LA, and New York are the better cities to be in. But if you get the right part, they'll fly you in and everything else, and you take up residency. I have done that before. Um, on a production I was working, we kind of set up camp in Wilmington, North Carolina. I did it Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So, yeah.
And you mentioned that you had done something prior to the acting that you're in now. You had a previous career. How has it been, I guess, kind of transitioning from that career path to going into film?
Well, you have a salary that you knew every 2 weeks you was gonna have a
Was
deposit.
coming. Right, right,
Um,
right.
in acting, it could be lucrative if you get the right gig, but sometimes work is slow. And like I say, I'm not in the market. If I was in Atlanta, I probably can have something every single day, including weekends. New York and LA as well. Richmond is just really slow, and we were on strike last year, and coming back off the strike is moving. But things are starting to pick up, and I am looking to. I actually submitted today for something that was in LA. Hopefully, that can happen. I mean, I went to college
Absolutely.
in LA, so it's not like it's a foreign city.
Right. It's home.
Yeah.
It's home. Wherever you go to college, I mean, it just feels like home. So
Yeah.
that would be ideal. Yeah, I can imagine just having that sense of knowing that you have a stable income coming in versus being in the acting world where you have to really rely on these auditions and upcoming performances, things of that nature to kind of sustain it. But it seems to be something that you're well accustomed to at this point, and kind of parallels to my next question. You've been at it for quite some time. I mean, you've been involved. You've been very much a dedicated, loyal actor for quite some time. What is it about it that keeps you so engaged and has kept you so engaged for such a long time?
It's fun. It really can be very, very fun. You meet some great people. And it's one of those things like you are getting better as a person by playing roles and
Mhm.
challenging yourself. Like I said, I can be very camera shy, and then I have to force myself to not be and have to tell myself, what are you tripping off of?
Right,
So,
right. Well, I mean, that's pretty big because I mean, you have to get out of that place to, become the actor, the performer that you need to be for that role. So, I mean, that has to be something that you get used to at this point now, right? Just getting out of that shyness, stepping into the role.
um, I know what to do, but it's still there.
Uh,
I guess that's about the best way to put it. So I have to go into this mindset. And one day it's just going to be natural. And I'm like, boom, what's my lines? Let's do
yeah.
it. And I don't know why. Prior to acting, part of my career before I was in banking was public relations. And even in banking was public relations. So I always did a lot of public speaking. But that was different for some reason. I controlled my script per se. But acting, I'm playing somebody else, and I have to remove myself and saying, that's not the kind of person I like. But I'm acting, so I have to be that.
Mm,
So it's very mental for me to do it.
hmm. Oh, for sure. And with it being such a really interesting field, I put it that way, just in how you audition and how you look at certain roles, things of that nature. I'm sure that, well, maybe I don't want to put that into your words or put it for you to say it, but I know in life, disappointments, failures come. Are there any failures or any disappointments that you can kind of speak to that you've experienced? And not only that you've experienced them, but what did you learn from those experiences?
Well, of course, when you audition and you don't get it, that's disappointing.
Mhm.
And it's a part of the field. You're not going to get every audition. I mean, when you talk to the big names, they'll tell you about auditions they bombed in, and even if they got it, they might have bombed because they couldn't get their lines right. And I've been, with very very seasoned actors, and they can completely forget their lines. And so the thing is to remember that you're human
Mm,
and you're not perfect, and that's why they have retakes. Now, of course, don't want to keep doing retakes because it can be costly and time consuming, and everybody else on the set will be rolling their eyes at you and want to throw things at you. But comes with the territory.
that's the territory. Absolutely. And I just want to backtrack just for a second. I spoke about, the importance of being consistent, as a life coach and someone who helps people along their journeys, I can always, say to them, hey, stay consistent, stay in the game, do what you got to do to continue to see this goal through. I know that you have single-handedly experienced this in more ways than one. Uh, can you speak to some of the effects that you have seen with you being consistent on this journey in the film industry?
Well, there are times that with anything in life, you get frustrated and you'll throw in the towel. And I always have this feeling the minute I try to throw in the towel will be the time that I miss my big break.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have to keep that in the back of my mind that there's a bigger picture. And it's kind of interesting. Many years ago, when I was seeking membership into this august body of men, um, I learned that there was more to me than I thought, and that I can endure more than I thought I could, and I can learn more. And so sometimes when I'm struggling with lines, when we were pledging, we had to learn an awful lot of history
Yes.
and important facts, a lot of data, poems, and you're like, wow, I can't do this. And I remember being online when I would learned Invictus. That was our first poem that we were given. They gave it to us before we were officially online, but it didn't work at learning. But once
Right.
we got online, we were able to learn differently. And so I use that whole training mode. So how I learning lines and feeling the poem out, you feel the character that you're doing. To
Mm-hmm.
answer your question.
You answered my question, and so much so that it made me want to ask another question that was related to that disappointment that I spoke to earlier and the failures. How do you deal with it? Because I think, the fraternity definitely has a place in helping us kind of go through the day-to-day things, but when it comes to the day-to-day disappointments or the, failures that you may have experienced, how do you deal with it being in this industry when, you have to just kind of suck it up and go to the next audition? Like, how do you deal with those disappointments and those failures?
It comes with the territory
Mm,
and understanding that and not chalking it up to me being a failure just means that it's challenging
hmm
and I can rise to the occasion and meet the challenge.
hmm So to speak, you're changing the mindset of
Yeah.
what the
Oh, most definitely. You
mhm,
have to.
yeah.
You can't go in it the way that you go into other things.
hmm
You have to individualize the situation.
hmm Yeah. And you said a lot when you just kind of spoke to the effects of your consistency and how it's paid off for you. So if you're thinking about, someone who is dealing with, not necessarily having the structure that's needed to be an actor, because I would imagine you have to go to several auditions, you have to be on time, you have to have all these different types of discipline. How would you advise someone to have that sense of discipline to not just for the sake of being in the film industry, but just let's just say anybody that's trying to go after something? What type of advice would you give someone who's needing to be a little bit more disciplined?
You have to look at what your real goal is,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to own it. And you got to um, know that you desire it, and it's going to take some work, and you got to step out of your box. Got to
Mm-hmm.
move out that lane and get into the other lane. And it may not be a lane that you're used to driving in, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a lane that you need to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
And so you just have to decide. Fannie Lou Hamer had this line. She said, "I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired."
Mm-hmm.
And that goes so many ways in life that if you want change, you're going to have to do things differently. And you can't approach everything the same way that you've done. You might have a success in another area, and that's how you did it. But when you come into acting, it's too many moving pieces that you don't control.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was doing a local production, and the guy who was directing it wrote it. And when he wrote it, it was a story about himself and his father's relationship. And not that it matters, but when he wrote it, he was looking for characters that looked like him.
Mm-hmm.
But in the auditions, myself and this other young man who was African American as well was the one who got it. And the way that he wrote it, he didn't want you to deviate one line. And I was like, it doesn't sound genuine because that's not how an African American father and son would talk. And not that saying that they don't talk that way, but as a whole, it just wasn't comfortable. I said, if you allow me to deviate, I can make this work.
Mm-hmm.
And he struggled with that because that was his baby and he only wanted its way. But the minute he allowed me to deviate, we flowed.
Mm.
And it just went so well. Now, you don't always have that leniency because some directors might say, no, line for line, word for word.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, one thing that I can say about Tyler Perry that I do like is that a lot of times there isn't a script. That could be good and bad, but I'm more that person who can ad lib better than I can memorize a script.
Mm-hmm.
And if you allow me to ad lib, you got a production. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not always the case because some people they go by the book and that's it. This is what
Mm-hmm.
it says. This is what you
Right.
do.
Right. They want it line by line, exactly how it's printed.
Word by word, and
Yeah.
it was like, oh my god, this not
Yeah.
working for me. So I have to trick my mind and say, hey, it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do it this way.
Right. Right. So, when you're going towards something and you have an idea of why you want to accomplish it, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, we tend to kind of think of the mission, the thing that is going to kind of cement us in our path, right? So for me, as a life coach, as a singer, working in higher education, my mission is always to advocate for people, in any type of way. If you were to think about your mission as an actor, your, you know, advocacy, the thing that you want to be known for as an actor, what would that be? What would your mission as a actor be?
To change lives.
Mm,
I want roles that, you know, I love comedy and I don't mind doing it whatsoever.
yeah.
But I want that serious role that
Mm,
a biopic basically of somebody who's really changed society. And in key, I want to be that person too.
mhm,
So being in the entertainment field, sometimes you have an avenue that you don't normally have if you're working in corporate America to impact community and people. And
mhm,
that's really what I want to do is make a difference. Um, and get people to start to think differently.
mhm,
I mean, you know, if you look at our political scene and some of the things that's going on, and I don't want to get into politics, but there is a candidate that's running that really is ineligible to run, quote unquote, and keeps winning. And you keep wondering, where are we going with this? Um, I just want people to look at the bigger picture than the I want as opposed to what is needed.
mhm. That is quite important. Quite important. So you said something that made me want to ask, kind of going off script a little bit. You want to change people's lives as an actor. That is an amazing mission. Is there a role that you would love to depict, or someone that you would love to depict in a biopic, or just somebody that you admire that you would love to be um, portraying in a movie or film?
There's probably plenty of people. I'm really into history. If you ever watch my social media, I post a lot of history. So there are so many characters that are so outstanding that are unsung.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just like when we were growing up and you had to do a book report. Everybody did Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, maybe Thurgood Marshall. But there are so many other people there that we haven't heard of who may have more of an impact. It can be something as simple as who invented something, who with the athlete that overcame some challenges, a childhood illness. Now there's a superstar. We all have to find who we really are so that we can get to where we're going in a shorter amount of time.
Mm-hmm. So, is there anyone that you can think of that you can share with us just offhand?
As a child, everybody used to ask who was my role model because they always expected the people I mentioned. And my role model was my grandfather, my dad's father,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Antoine Aikens. He was just an outstanding man. He moved from rural Mississippi to
Mm-hmm.
California and did quite well. And they had 10 living children to raise. And he and my grandmother were married a month shy of 55 years. And he made an impact because when I remember one time we were in college and we came home, some of our friends, we all came home, all the people that was from where I was from. And I would walk in their homes and they were like, I know your whole family. Your grandparents opened the door for all of us. And I can't count how many meals we ate. And your grandparents never seemed to buck at it. They just
Wow.
loved people and helping people. And my grandmother used to always tell me, uh, my grandmother's like, baby, you gonna come to this funeral with me? I was like, I don't know those people. She said, they're from home. I said, I still don't know them.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to go to a funeral to somebody I don't know and sit there. She said, baby, sometimes you got to do the things that you don't want to do to get to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I accompanied my grandmother to these funerals. And because, she would say like they're family, but when you really look at it, they're just friends of friends, but
Mm-hmm.
they're from the same hometown.
Right. Right. Well, somehow you got to find a way to write a script or a screenplay or something that depicts your grandfather, who is seemingly your role model. Is that something that you ever have looked into doing? Is writing screenplays or getting into
I've
that
I've
side of it?
I've thought of it a lot of times. You know, I always tell myself I don't like writing, but I'm a very good writer, but I just don't like it. And I remember freshman year, I had this English composition class that every freshman had to take. Uh, every student at UCLA had to take this class. And my professor, he's like, wow, you are a great writer. And I was like, okay, let's not get carried away with it. I'm not trying to write for the school newspaper. I'm not trying to do all this. I'm just trying to take this class and go on so that I can get to the next phase.
Mm-hmm.
So I've thought about it, but it just means sitting down and just dedicating some time. And I just haven't done that yet.
Well, maybe it'll be on your bucket list.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, I'm
And now
putting it
that
out there.
I've shared that with you, I got a feeling I'm going to hear this back.
Oh yeah, you will. You'll hear it again. He will definitely hear it again, ladies and gentlemen. This will not be the last time
Can you give
this
me a couple
conversation.
weeks though?
I'll give you a couple weeks, but then after that, you gotta, get on it, get on board. I know you got a busy schedule, but you gotta
I
make it
shouldn't
happen.
have told you.
Right. Yes. And so you actually have shared something with me that I wanted to kind of bring into the space. When you are on set, for these films and other things that you do as well, there's a lot of periods of time when you're just kind of sitting and waiting. What we see on the receiving end of just kind of watching a movie is not as short and sweet as we see it. Kind of walk us through a day in life of being on a set for a film or something else that you're a part of.
Let me just say that filming is very time consuming. You may be on set for 16 hours, but really have only worked maybe an hour.
Wow.
There's a lot of retakes, and you're like, that looked perfect. It could have just been a plane flying above, a car backfiring, something, but they have to eliminate that. They realized when they looked over it, something about what you were wearing wasn't the same as part when they're putting pieces together.
Oh.
So, and I was thinking about it Saturday. We were filming this production, and we just kept doing the same scene over and over again until we finally got it right.
Mm.
And I was like, Lord, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But so and it's kind of interesting sometimes that when people ask you about what this movie is about or this TV series about, like, I really don't know. This is just my role. I don't know how
Mm.
it picks in. And so when you end up seeing it on TV, like, when did they do all that?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of moving parts that you
Mm-hmm.
don't always see. And I remember having doing this one TV series, and an actress that I was working with, who I really respected, was sitting right behind me in the scene, and she was one of the principal characters. And I was like, man, I'm in. I'm about
Mm-hmm.
to get this great clip. And when the show came out in that particular scene that I thought I was going to get full frontal, it was just the arm, my
Wow.
sleeve that was in it. And I was like, well, that's me. But yeah, so.
Wow. Well, you did mention I want to just reiterate, you did mention that there's a lot of waiting. So when there's waiting times, you can start writing that screenplay. That's another tip that I'm
What?
throwing at you.
Yeah, I knew that's where you were going.
I was going with that, yes. But
Yes and no, but there's a lot of distractions because you build camaraderie with your
of
other
course.
the other cast members, and so it could be something as simple as that. There's a spades tournament that's going on, it's a dominoes tournament, people playing Uno. You may just walk around or something, but it's sometimes very hard just to be focused on something because I can be doing some things and people like, what you doing? And come up and it's like, okay, so I'm not going to do this. So I don't rely on the set to get some things accomplished. Not saying that it can't happen, but
Right.
there are too many missing pieces that make it a challenge.
Yeah. And I understand that part. And I think I shared with you once that, um, that kind of standstill approach is very, very common. I've only had a very small dose of it. As I told you, I was an extra in that Get On Up movie, and I was in the scene that was held right after Martin Luther King had died, and he had performed in Boston, Massachusetts, and it was actually filmed here in Jackson, and I was one of the extras, and I found myself on the screen and was able to point it out, but that was literally like it was a 5 minute scene, if that. And we literally were there from like 8 a.m. to midnight practically.
Yeah, very
And it
common.
was, yeah, very, very, very short clip, very short.
Now, do you want to give us some James Brown dance steps while you?
No, that was not my
Because weren't
job.
you a
My
body
job.
double for him?
I was not. I was not. I
Oh,
was
that
not.
wasn't the role?
That wasn't me at all.
Oh, okay.
Nah. And I'm sure. I think you said you worked with Chadwick Boseman, right? Didn't you in something before?
No, I didn't have that opportunity.
Okay, okay. But he was very disciplined on set. I mean, he was just every time he missed a mark or something, he would do push-ups, and it was just really he was very, very disciplined in his art. And I'm sure you come across a lot of actors that are in that same regard. You mentioned working with some of your favorite actors. Who are some of your favorite actors that you can think of, uh, presently that you've worked with and you've just really just enjoyed being around?
Well, I did this. I worked on this production, A Journal for Jordan, and the director was Denzel Washington.
Wow.
And I just, he's like a definite mentor.
Hmm.
But he is just so, everything you've heard about him is so true. And he was just the perfect gentleman while we were working on that production. And afterwards, after we wrapped, um, so I'm standing next to him. He goes, "Man, are you gonna take this picture or what?" And I just like, wow, I thought I needed
Yeah.
to be more formal about my approach and all this. He's like, oh, take this picture. And we took it, and he was flying back out. We filmed it in Northern Virginia, but he was flying back out to LA that night. But he was like, you guys can come by the hotel and kick it, but I only got about an hour, but you're welcome to. And he was just so real that you just wouldn't think. So that was a great moment in the field for me because he's an actor that I admire his style.
That's got to be like one of the most jaw-dropping moments, I would imagine, just being in the midst of someone like him and to have him be so personable. I mean,
Mhm.
that's really, really cool. What are some other upsides to being in this industry?
Um, it's like doing something you enjoy and getting paid for it.
Mhm.
And so, although I say I'm shy, I like it, and I keep telling myself, stop saying you're shy. And I know I have a brother who's a year older than me, and we used to talk. He said the funny thing was that everybody thinks I'm shy. I just don't talk as much as you, but they don't know how shy you are because you talk.
Mm.
And so I need to stop saying that I am shy, but I just like people know that I'm not being antisocial, but sometimes I am not a person who knows how to do small talk. And so it's very uncomfortable. So I'm trying, I'm sitting up there. So what can I say in this situation? And sometimes I just can't think of anything. But in a conversation, I can be great if it's my topic per se. So I'm trying to learn to be more outgoing um,
Mhm.
in an area that I'm not as familiar with.
Yeah. What are the downsides to being in the film industry?
uh, Tomorrow may not happen. Like you can
Mhm.
have everything planned, or you'll think you're going to be on a production for X amount of time, and they're like, "Up, that's it." Or the opposite, you thinking that okay, I'm only going up here for 3 days, and they're talking about, and then next week, and I'm like, I had something else planned. So sometimes I get an influx of things all at the same time. Like I can't be at all these different places, which is good, but I would love for it all to work together.
Mhm. And that's not possible at all times, huh?
No.
So you've talked a great deal about how you said it inadvertently, how this consistency, how you've gone back to, something that you've wanted to achieve time and time again has paid off for you. You've even learned to kind of deal and associate yourself with some of the downfalls as well. But that engagement of just being in this industry just keeps you alive and keeps you going. What's some advice that you would give somebody that is interested in being an actor and going into the film industry?
You're not gonna get rich. Um,
Mm,
Most people like, ooh. I remember we were filming for this show, and one of the guys, he was a background, and he misunderstood the rate. He thought the rate for the day, I guess he thought it was hourly, and I was like, dude, you think they're gonna pay you that much an hour?
hmm
And when he found out, he was so disappointed. I'm like, what part didn't you see? I mean, it's clearly stated what the rate is. Usually, your rate is a set amount over 8 hours if it's union. If it's
hmm
non-union, it's usually 10 or 12 hours. And at the end of that um, time, you may go into double time. In some cases, triple time, and there's some other bumps that come in play. But you got to be patient. You're not just gonna come in on the set and be. What makes you think that you're gonna come in and you're gonna be the star out of set? Now there are people who, when they talk about how they got their big break, they were just walking down Hollywood Boulevard and one of the directors said, "I want you in here," and it worked like that. that's more uncommon than common.
Hmm.
So just know that this is not a quick fix. This is a long-term commitment.
Absolutely. And one that you seem to be very dedicated to. One word that affirms you.
Determined. That's about all I don't know. There's so many words when somebody says one, but I am determined to do well.
Hmm. And it sounds like you have the demeanor to keep at it and to keep doing something that you love to do.
Today is a good day because some days you just get like, I'm throwing in this towel. I'm tired.
Yeah.
It's too much. I need to go back into banking. And no, I'm gonna stick it out.
Hmm.
My day is coming.
Absolutely. This is a tangent of some sorts, but it's still within the realm of being determined. If you can think of yourself in the next few years, where would you like to be?
As far as in the
In the film industry, where would you like to be?
in a few years, I would have gotten my major bonus role and then going to directing. I think I could do well in directing.
Awesome. Well, I'm definitely here to support you to get there. And I know that there's much, much more to come. This is not the last time that you all have seen him. Brother Aikens, Brother Laurence Aikens, thank you so very much for joining tonight and just for sharing your gems and your knowledge with everyone. I know that a lot of people were able to get some inspiration behind your story and also your journey in being consistent towards something that you've been pursuing for quite some time. So thanks again for joining. Thank you so much.
It's indeed my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Oh,
I
no problem at
truly
all.
appreciate it.
No problem.
I hope that it does help someone.
I think it will, most definitely. Now, you spoke about being on social media a bit, but let's say someone wants to follow you and just kind of follow your journey in the film industry. How can someone connect with you or follow you on social media?
I think the best one would be Instagram, and my handle is lboogie1906.
Right. Well, definitely go out and follow and support him, ladies and gentlemen. I know that you're going to be quite inspired by his journey. If there's one thing that you can say that you're grateful for today, Brother Aikens, what would it be?
Life.
Mhm.
I just life is good even on the bad days. It can always be better and it always can be worse, but it's still life.
Yeah.
And the sooner you embrace it, the better off you'll be.
Yeah. I think that goes right aligned to what I was going to say is that I'm just glad I got the pulse, right? I'm grateful to be amongst the living.
Yes,
Yeah.
better to be seen than viewed.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all again for joining us tonight. Please join us again next week as we have another amazing conversation and topic in hand. I hope you all have a great rest of the evening. Have a great weekend. God bless.